A very good evening to all of you. So, today we are here again this Wednesday to continue with our Organon series. So, the last time we have done till we have talked about the dissimilar diseases, that what happens when two dissimilar diseases they basically meet in a body. So, we have done those three scenarios to understand that how if we give a medicine which produces a dissimilar effect in the body, that it will not be capable of removing the disease from the body. It will not be capable of curing the patient. Now, today we will talk about the similar diseases. That how similar diseases basically can cure the similar disease, the other similar diseases. So there will be few examples of cures which happen naturally, and these some of the observers they observed this thing, and then Dr. Hahnemann will talk about how we can use this law of similia similibus currenter, that similars can cure the similars. How we can use this law to cure the people from any kind of sickness, to cure the patient as we have defined in the aphorism. Two, how the ideal cure should be done, that the disease should be annihilated from all the aspects, from all the parts of the body. So we will start with our today's presentation. So we have done till aphorism 42 last time. So we'll start with aphorism 43. So totally different, however, is the result when two similar diseases meet together in the organism. That is to say, when to the disease already present, a stronger similar one is added. In such cases, we see how a cure can be affected by the operations of nature, and we get a lesson as to how man ought to cure. So here, uh, we'll not talk about the remedies. Dr. Hahnemann is not going to talk about the medicines. He is basically going to talk about how similar diseases in the operation of the nature, like when some similar disease came, how it basically cured the older malady which was similar to it. So two diseases similar to each other can neither, as is asserted of the dissimilar diseases in first example, repel one another. Like in the first example of the dissimilar diseases, we have seen this, that when two diseases which are similar, they cannot repel one another. Nor, sorry, they can repel one another, because if there is a disease which is present, which is stronger, and a dissimilar disease which is weaker, it basically tries to come inside the body, tries to affect the body, then this, the stronger, the older one, will repel the new disease from coming or affecting the body. So he said that the two diseases which are similar, they cannot repel each other, because they are not dissimilar, they are similar, so they cannot repel each other. Nor, as has been shown of dissimilar diseases in the second example, suspend one another. But like the dissimilar diseases in the second example, if a stronger one is coming, the weaker is suspended for some time. And when the stronger one has basically affected the whole action on the body, then the weaker one comes back again. So Dr. Herman is saying that the similar disease cannot do like this also, because of the similarity, so that the old one shall return after the new one has run its course. And just as little can two similar diseases, as has been demonstrated in third example respecting dissimilar affections, exist beside each other in the same organism, or together from a double complex which should be formed. Together form a double complex disease. So he's saying that, like we have seen the three examples of the dissimilar diseases. In the first example, the new disease is basically repelled because of the weakness of the vitality of that disease. In the second example, the new disease being the stronger one, it suppresses the older disease for some time. And when the action or the course it has run, then the older one comes back again. And in the third example, that where the two dissimilar diseases start basically coexisting together in the organism, and they start forming a double complex disease. The similar diseases cannot do any of these things. They cannot repel one another, they cannot suspend each other, and they cannot basically exist beside each other and form a double complex disease. Why? It is given in the next aphorism. No, two diseases differing, it is true, in kind, but very similar in their phenomena and effects, and in the sufferings and symptoms. They severally produce, invariably annihilate one another whenever they meet together in the organism. He's saying that whenever the two diseases, they might be of some different kind, means they are coming from some different source, but their phenomena is very similar, their effect is very similar, the sufferings, the symptoms which they produce on the body, they are very similar. So when there is this similarity, then what happens is that one disease will annihilate the another one whenever they will meet in the organism. The stronger disease, namely, annihilates means extinguishes, kind of removes the weaker, and that for this simple reason, because, and why it do this is because the stronger morphic power, when it invades the system, by reason of its similarity of action, involves precisely the same parts of the organism that were previously affected by the weaker morbid mutation. So when a similar disease is coming, which has similar affection, similar phenomena, similar kind of sufferings, it has a tendency to produce. So it basically takes precisely, exactly the same parts of the organism which are already affected because of the similarity, which consequently can no longer act on these parts but is extinguished. So the weaker one, which was already there acting on these parts, the stronger one will remove it because it is going to act on these parts. So the weaker one has to be extinguished, is basically removed, and it no longer has the ability to act on these parts because the stronger one is working on the same parts in the same manner, producing the same phenomena. Or in other words, because whenever the vital force rearranged by the primary disease is more strongly attacked by the new, very similar but stronger dynamic morphic power, it therefore now remains affected by the later alone, whereby the original similar but weaker disease must, as a mere dynamic power without material substratum, cease to exercise any further morbid influence on the vital force. Consequently, it must cease to exist. Because the new disease, which is similar, is a stronger one. So it does not allow the weaker disease to act on the vital force. Because it is dynamic. It have both the diseases are dynamic in nature. All the diseases are dynamic in nature. They don't have any material substance which will remain hidden there, which, like for example, there is a example in the footnote that a lamp is burning. We have switched on a lamp, or a lamp is burning, and as soon as the sun comes, the same light, the sun comes, we are not able to perceive the light of the lamp because it is a more stronger one. We can use the lamp to find the way in the night, but in the day the lamp does not have any use or any effect because there is already sun there. So this lamp is basically acting on our optic nerve in a similar way as the sun does. But because sun is more stronger, so it basically does not let the lamp light affect on our optic nerve. It does not produce that kind of power as it produces in the night. So similarly, the old, weaker, similar disease, it basically ceases to exist. It cannot exist when a more stronger, more powerful, similar disease is basically present there. So same the footnote is just as the image of lamp's flame is rapidly overpowered and effaced from our retina by the stronger sunbeam impinging on the eye. So a stronger sunbeam, when it starts affecting on our eye, on our retina, the lamp's image, the flame of the lamp's image, it basically is overpowered. Hmm. So aphorism 46. So now in this aphorism, Dr. Henneman will give the examples. I have not written the reference of each example, but it is given in the footnotes of the aphorism 46. The references, the books from where he is taking these examples, it is given there. So if you just might to cross check, or if you want to go more deeper into those books, you can refer it there. But he has given the examples. Many examples might be adduced of diseases which, in the course of nature, have been homeopathically cured by other diseases presenting similar symptoms. Were it not necessary, as our object is to speak about something determinate and indubitable, to confine our attention solely to these few diseases which are invariably the same, rise from a fixed miasm, and hence merit a distinct name. So he's saying that there are many examples that in the course of the nature, the diseases which have been coming, they have basically removed the older diseases homeopathically. Homeopathically means because it was similar to that disease, so it acted on that disease and it removed the older disease. So was it not necessary? Now the next question is that was it not necessary for the physicians or ourselves that something which was so determinate being shown by the nature and it was indubitable, means we cannot doubt it because it is happening in front of us. And there are so many examples that we should have given our attention to this thing and try to understand from here how diseases are to be cured. Among these, the smallpox, so dreaded on the account of the great number of its serious symptoms, occupies a prominent position, and it has removed and cured a number of maladies with similar symptoms. So he's going to give few examples because when smallpox comes, it has so many serious symptoms. Beside the eruption, there are so many other symptoms which the smallpox can produce. So he's saying that in all these examples, the smallpox it plays a prominent role, and many authors, many physicians have seen these examples that after the smallpox erupted in a patient, there were some old symptoms which were removed by the smallpox. So how frequently does smallpox produce violent ophthalmia? So we have seen and we have studied also that whenever the smallpox used to come, nowadays it does not come so frequently. But it was a very frequent thing. It had epidemics during the time of Dr. Henneman. So he's saying that how frequently we have seen that smallpox basically produces violent ophthalmia in many patients. Okay, there's a tendency to produce violent ophthalmia. That is one of its symptoms, the smallpox. Sometimes even causing blindness, and sometimes it has even caused blindness. And C, by its inoculation, Desoto was a physician, cured a chronic ophthalmia permanently and Leroy another. And when it was inoculated as a vaccination in a patient who had chronic ophthalmia, it was cured permanently. So why it was cured? Because it has the tendency to produce that symptom. And Leroy has also seen and has also cured a patient with chronic ophthalmia. An hemolysis of 2 years duration, consequent on suppressed scald head. So some patient they had a scald head. Scald head is like a ringworm, kind of ringworm, which got suppressed and caused amaurosis. Amaurosis is a partial or complete blindness of the eye. Was perfectly cured by it according to Klein. It means smallpox. Again, there was a physician Klein who basically inoculated the smallpox vaccination, and he saw that after the vaccination, the blindness was gone. It was cured. How often does smallpox cause deafness and dyspnea? Again, that smallpox basically causes deafness and dyspnea also very frequently. But both these chronic diseases, it removed on reaching its acme as JFR clause observed. So when it reached its acme, the stage of the smallpox, it cured deafness and dyspnea in a patient. Swelling of the testicle, even of a very severe character, is a frequent symptom of smallpox. And on this account, it was enabled as clean observed again the same person, clean, to cure by virtue of similarity a large hard swelling of left testicle consequent on a bruise. So after a bruise, a patient had developed a swelling of left testicle, which was hard. And the physician, he observed that after this, again, the inoculation of smallpox, that swelling was completely gone. It was completely cured. And another observer saw a similar swelling of testicle cured by it. And there was one more observer who saw this thing. Among the troublesome symptoms of smallpox is a dysenteric state of the bowels, and it's subdued as FR Wendt observed a case of dysentery as a similar morbific agent. So again, there is a symptom of dysentery, a state of intestines in the cases of smallpox, the people who are suffering from smallpox. And again, one of the physician, he saw that a case of similar dysentery was cured by the smallpox inoculation. Smallpox coming on after vaccination as well on the account of its greater strength as its great similarity at once removes entirely the cowpox homeopathically. If a patient is suffering from cowpox and he has been given smallpox because it has the same kind of eruption but is greater in strength, so homeopathically it removes the cowpox and does not permit it to come to maturity. But on the other hand, the cowpox, when near maturity, does, on account of its great similarity, homeopathically diminish very much the supervening smallpox. So, because both are similar, the cowpox and the smallpox. So, when the cowpox is near the maturity, is at the greatest dynamically energetic and stronger state, it diminishes the smallpox and make it much milder. It decreases its intensity, as Murray and many others testify. The inoculated cowpox, whose lymph, besides the protective matter, contains the contagion of a general cutaneous sorry. The inoculated cowpox, whose lymph, besides the protective matter, contains the contagion of a general cutaneous eruption of another nature, consisting of usually small, dry, rarely large pustular pimples resting on a small red areola. So it is a character of eruption which the cowpox basically produces. There is a small red areola uh, surface, red surface on which a small pimple or many pimples are basically seen, frequently conjoined with round red cutaneous spots and often accompanied by the most violent itching. So there are around it are more red spots and it is basically very itchy, which rash appears in not a few children several days before, more frequently after, however, after the red areola of cowpox, and goes off in a few days, leaving behind small red hard spots on the skin. So it is basically the kind of eruption which the cowpox produces. The inoculated cowpox, I say, after it has taken cures perfectly and permanently in a homeopathic manner by the similarity of this accessory miasm, analogous cutaneous eruptions of children, often of very long standing. So, in those children who had these kind of eruptions from a long time, not because of the cowpox, but they had these eruptions. They had naturally developed these kind of eruptions where the skin was very red. There was a red areola, red round, and there were small pimples inside that part, and it was very itchy. So after the inoculation of the cowpox, now because cowpox also produces the same kind of lesion, the same kind of eruption. So after the inoculation of cowpox, even in those children who had these kind of eruptions from a long, long time, number of observers have seen this thing that they were permanently homeopathically removed. And it is not that they were suppressed, they were permanently and perfectly cured. Often of a very long standing and of a very troublesome character, as a number of observers assert. The cowpox, a peculiar symptom of which is to cause tumefaction of the arm, cured after it broke out a swollen, half paralyzed arm. So, a person had a half paralyzed arm, and because it is the symptom of the cowpox, that if the eruption is suppressed, it basically causes the paralysis where the eruption was. So, when it broke out in a person who had a half paralyzed arm, after it ran its course, it cured the patient. It cured that paralysis. A fever accompanying cowpox, which occurs at the time of the production of the red areola, cured homeopathically intermittent fever in two individuals, as the younger Hardegg reports, confirming what J. Hunter had already observed, that two fevers, similar disease, cannot coexist in the same body. So first J. Hunter had observed this thing. Then the another Dr. Hardegg, he reported this thing that this, there were two individuals who were already suffering from some intermittent fever. And when the cowpox fever erupted, they were homeopathically cured from all the fevers. The measles bear a strong resemblance in the character of its fever and cough to the whooping cough. And whence it was that Boscawen noticed in an epidemic where both these affections prevailed that many children who then took measles remained free from whooping cough during the epidemic. So, whooping cough, the cough of the measles has a resemblance with the whooping cough, the fever and the cough of the measles. So, there was this Dr. Boscawen who noticed this thing that in an epidemic, both these diseases were prevalent. Some were having whooping cough and some were having measles. But all those children who got measles, they were not affected by the whooping cough. Or even if they had whooping cough after the eruption of the measles, the whooping cough was gone. They would all have been protected from and rendered incapable of being infected by the whooping cough in that and all subsequent epidemics by the measles. If that whooping cough were not a disease that has only a partial similarity to the measles, that is to say, if it had also cutaneous eruption similar to what the latter possesses. As it is, however, the measles can but preserve a large number from whooping cough homeopathically, and that only in the epidemic prevailing at the time. So it means that the measles can basically preserve homeopathically people from not having whooping cough if the whooping cough is prevalent at that time. And it has been seen in those epidemics that when the whooping cough was prevalent and the measles broke out, the children who had measles, they were not affected by the whooping cough. If, however, the measles come in contact with a disease resembling it in its chief symptom, the eruption, it can indisputably remove and affect a homeopathic cure of the latter. Thus, a chronic herpetic eruption was entirely and permanently homeopathically cured by the breaking out of the measles, as Cortum observed. So, in a patient who had a chronic herpetic eruption from a long time, when the measles broke out, because it has the resemblance of the eruption, it basically cured that patient homeopathically after the measles was broke after the pet that patient was affected by the measles. An excessively burning miliary rash on the face, neck, and arms that had lasted 6 years was aggravated by every change of weather on the invasion of measles, assumed the form of a swelling of surface of the skin. After the measles had run its course, the exanthema was cured and returned to normal. So there was this eruption of 6 years, miliary rash on face, neck, and arms, and it used to get aggravated by every weather change. And on the invasion, on the this coming of the measles, when the patient was affected by the measles, and there was swelling of the surface of the skin. After the measles, it ran its course. That exanthema, that miliary rash was cured for always and it never returned. So from here, that is why Dr. Henneman is saying that all these observers, they observed this thing. They observed that these kind of things are produced by the measles, which are being cured by the measles. These kind of things are produced by the smallpox, which are being cured by the smallpox. These kind of the things, eruptions or the some other things are produced by the cowpox, and in other patient it is being cured after the cowpox or the measles or the smallpox it erupted. So is it that why we have ignored it for so long time? Nature has been telling us that this is the way how the diseases are to be cured. And why he has given these examples? Because these things were chronic. The people were suffering from so long time. The blindness, the miliary rash, the hardening of the testicles. They were suffering from it from very long time. And when this thing happened and it got cured, it never returned. It never returned. So it was not merely suppressed. It was completely cured. In second example, of the dissimilar disease, it will remain suspended and suppressed. And whenever the course will be finished of these diseases, they will come back again. But it was not the same thing here. These diseases, they never came back. So footnote to aphorism 46, the examples adduced in this place in the former editions of the organon except the last of chronic maladies cured by the itch can, according to the discoveries and explanations I had given in the first part of my book on chronic diseases, be looked upon as only a certain degree homeopathic cures. So he's saying that all these examples which I have given here and the examples which I have also explained in the chronic diseases, they should be considered as a certain degree of the homeopathic cures. The great maladies which thereby disappeared, suffocative asthma of many years standing, pulmonary phthisis, were themselves originally of psoric origin, widely spread life-threatening symptoms of an ancient sora that had been fully developed in the interior of the system, which was again transformed into the simple form of the primitive itch disease by the cutaneous eruption resulting from the new infection, as always happens in such case, whereby the old malady and the dangerous symptoms are made to disappear. Just a minute. I think something is missing here. I will come back to this part later on. I think something is missing. It is not complete. I am not having the book here right now with me. So I will come back to this part later. So aphorism 47. Nothing could teach the physician in a plainer and more convincing manner than the above what kind of artificial morphic agent, medicine, he ought to choose in order to cure in a sure, rapid, and permanent manner, conformably with the process that takes place in nature. So he says that nothing else, no other examples can tell the physician, can teach the physician that how he has to cure, what kind of medicines he has to choose in order to cure in a manner which should be permanent, it should be rapid, and it should be sure. Whether the medicine which is affecting an opposite state should be chosen, or the medicine which has the power of affecting the similar state should be chosen. So he says that all these examples which he has given, starting from the aphorism of dissimilar diseases till the aphorism 46, he says from all these things, it becomes very much clear to the mind of the physician that what kind of medicine he has to choose. So, like the last time we were talking about the same thing, that I hope that you must have given a thought to it when I told you that just look around you, that whether the patients who have been taking such medicines, have their medicines increased or decreased. So from here we can see that we give the minimum dose, we give the smallest kind of the dose, and we give the least repetition of the dose. And even then, the problem starts getting cured. It starts getting removed. The patient starts feeling more. Few days back, I have a patient of myasthenia gravis from USA. So he started around 6 months, or I think 5 months back. He started the medicine. For for the first time he sent me the video and we talked on the phone. He told me that he was not able to climb the stairs while standing. Like he cannot. So he had to get on his all fours, like the hands and the knees, and he had to go up like an animal. So he was not able to stand and go like on his feet, on his 2 feet. So he has to get on his four limbs and go up the this thing. So I think a week back, like Thursday or Friday, he sent me a video that now he's able to climb the stairs on his 2 feet. And he was so excited. He did it 2 to 3 times. He would come down, go up, come down, go up, just to show me that he's very much better. And I have just given him one single dose from past 5 months. Just one single dose. What remedy does not matter. Maybe we'll discuss someday, because if I tell the remedy, then it will get attached that myasthenia gravis and this remedy. So I will not tell the remedy. But the thing to understand is that one single dose, because it has the power to produce the similar symptoms, and thus it started making the patient more better, because and he's taking the other medicines. He had been taking the medicine from long time, the steroids and everything, whichever was prescribed to him. And the same question asked him, that when you started, have you got did you got better, or have you deteriorated? He said deteriorated for sure. If I would have gotten better after that those medicine, I would not have I do I would not have the need to consult you. So that is the difference which we have to understand. It is very important that what kind of remedy we have to use, how we have to think, because a homeopath can only become a homeopath if in his mind, in his thought, he has this thing that I have to cure homeopathically, means I have to give those medicines which have the power to create such diseases, similar diseases, which can extinguish the old similar diseases, because that is the only way. From so many examples, there are even more examples in the chronic diseases, the book written by Dr. Hanneman, the chronic diseases. So there he has given even more examples about this thing. Okay, so from there we have to have this thing in our mind that yes, that is a differentiation why homeopathy can basically cure, and why the other systems they usually are not much able to help in curing. They might palliate the patient, they might uh, give a temporary amelioration. But when we are talking about cure, the cure can only be done in a single way, that is by those medicines which can produce the similar effect on the disease which is already there. So will do till aphorism. I will come back next time with the footnote, I think, because I have written something wrong or something is missing. So I'll just check and we will discuss the footnote in our next meeting. So with that, I will take your leave. If there are any questions regarding this thing, you can send them to me and we will discuss in our next meeting. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a very nice and good day.